The Galactic Council Chamber, a vast dome of swirling energy and holographic displays, pulsed with the tense murmurs of dozens of species. Representatives from every corner of the known galaxy were gathered, their voices clashing in a cacophony of disbelief, fear, and barely contained outrage. They did what? High Chancellor Varquin's mandibles clicked violently as he replayed the transmission on the main display. The image flickered, then stabilized, an intercepted broadcast from the invading forces. A deep, guttural voice rumbled through the chamber. The conquest of Earth is underway. Resistance is minimal. We will establish control within one planetary cycle. A hush fell over the council. Even the cold-blooded Zelvarians, known for their indifference to the plights of other species, were still. The statement was not just arrogant, it was suicidal. They've doomed themselves, whispered a feathered Ulnari diplomat, her wings shivering. I don't understand, growled a Serkar warlord, his armored exoskeleton clanking as he leaned forward. Humans are just another primitive species. What makes this different? A deep sigh echoed from the corner of the chamber. Ambassador Dren of the Zevran Union, an aged being with silvered eyes, stood slowly. You haven't been paying attention, have you? He said, voice heavy with something that sounded suspiciously like pity. You think of them as primitives? But we knew better. The warlord sneered. You speak in riddles, old one. Dren turned his gaze toward the transmission still playing in the air. It showed a fleet descending upon Earth, massive capital ships blotting out the sky, columns of shock troopers marching through ruined cities, the invaders' flag raised above a burning human capital. Then something changed. The footage cut to black for a moment. Then it returned, this time from a different perspective. The invaders' perspective. A single soldier, clad in the sleek armor of the Dominion's elite, was panting heavily, his visor cracked, his breath ragged. They weren't supposed to be like this, he stammered. They're hunting us. Gunfire echoed through the alleyways. Screams. Then something else, something worse. Laughter. The broadcast cut off. Dren turned back to the assembly. This is not a war. It's not an invasion. It's a lesson. And by the time it's over, the galaxy will remember why Earth was always left alone. The madness begins. The invasion had started smoothly, at first. The Dominion's forces had trained for every possible scenario. Mass panic, disorganized resistance, even the potential of nuclear retaliation. None of them had prepared for this. In the city of New Chicago, Dominion soldiers had established an occupation zone within hours, setting up perimeter defenses and subduing local authorities with ease. But the night brought something different. The first sign was the silence. No screaming. No pleading civilians. Just nothing. Then the power flickered. Then the streetlights went out. Then came the whispers. Private Jorath clutched his plasma rifle tighter, his four-fingered hand slick with sweat. His helmet's HUD flickered, struggling to adjust to the sudden blackout. Command, we have a situation, he murmured, activating his comlink. Static. Then, in the distance, a sound, low, deliberate. A rhythmic tapping against concrete. A steady thud, thud, thud. Jorath turned to his squad mates, motioning for them to form up. They moved cautiously, weapons raised, scanning the darkness. A shadow flickered past them. Identify yourself, barked Sergeant Ulcrex. A human voice, clear, sharp, mocking, responded from the darkness. Oh, buddy, you're not ready for this. The moment stretched. Then chaos erupted. Something leaped from the darkness, a blur of movement, steel glinting in the faint light. A Dominion soldier gurgled as a blade found his throat, his weapon clattering to the ground. Gunfire erupted, but the darkness moved, swallowing their bullets, twisting around them. Jorath felt a sharp blow to the back of his helmet. He spun around, swinging wildly, only to hit nothing. His breath came in ragged gasps. Then he saw them. Humans. Not cowering. Not fleeing. But smiling. Grinning as they took down his squad mates one by one. He realized too late what had happened. They were the ones being hunted. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Dominion fleet had positioned itself confidently above Earth, prepared to crush any last-ditch resistance from the humans. Their sensors detected minor skirmishes, small groups engaging in guerrilla tactics, but nothing that warranted full orbital support. Then the fleet's flagship, the Sovereign Wrath, received a single incoming transmission. It was a single human male, seated in what looked like a small command post. He looked unarmed, relaxed, casual even. He gave a little wave. Hey there, Dominion fellas. The fleet admiral frowned. Identify yourself. The human smirked. Oh, me? Just a guy with a message. He leaned forward. You should probably leave. The Admiral sneered. We have conquered countless worlds, human. Your people are weak. Your resistance is pathetic. You have no leverage. The human chuckled. Yeah, I figured you'd say that. He pressed a button on his console. The feed changed. It showed the Dominion fleet, except something was wrong. Several ships were missing. The camera zoomed in, revealing explosions rippling through their formation, their mighty capital ships breaking apart like brittle glass. The human grinned wider. Oops. The Council watches in horror. The Galactic Council had been monitoring the invasion closely, expecting a swift victory for the Dominion. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as reports poured in. The Dominion's forces were in full retreat. Their fleet was in ruins. Their soldiers, those who had survived, were being released one by one. Not executed. Not imprisoned. Just let go. The reason soon became clear. Every single surviving Dominion soldier was broken. Haunted. Many refused to speak. Those who did whispered of nightmares, of shadows that whispered their names, of humans who seemed to enjoy the hunt. The Dominion, once the most feared force in the galaxy, had been humiliated. A grim silence filled the council chamber. Finally, the High Chancellor turned to the human ambassador, his voice shaking. What are you? The human smiled, slow and knowing. We're the apex predators that other apex predators fear. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with murmurs, it was filled with fear. The once mighty Dominion, whose fleets had crushed civilizations without breaking a sweat, was now a broken husk of its former self. The invasion of Earth had not merely failed, it had shattered them. High Chancellor Varquin's mandibles trembled as he replayed the intercepted distress signals from the Dominion forces. Screams. Garbled voices pleading for extraction. Soldiers whispering in pure terror. This cannot be, muttered a Zelvarian diplomat, his scaled hands gripping the table so tightly his claws left deep gouges. The Dominion cannot be defeated like this, not by humans. They weren't defeated, Ambassador Dren of the Zevran Union corrected, his voice heavy. They were hunted. The chamber fell into silence. No one spoke. No one dared. Then the doors slammed open. A battered, bloody Dominion officer stumbled inside, his once pristine armor cracked and dented, his expression haunted. It was Admiral Vorka, the highest-ranking officer to survive the invasion. Every eye in the chamber turned to him. He fell to his knees, shaking violently. His mandibles twitched, his breathing erratic. They let me live, he croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. The High Chancellor stepped forward cautiously. What happened? Vorka's eyes flickered with memories no living being should have. He lifted his trembling hands. They smiled while they killed us. New Chicago, the night of terror. 3 days into the invasion, the Dominion forces realized something was wrong. At first, everything had gone according to plan. Their forces had moved in, overwhelmed Earth's initial defenses, and established strongholds in key cities. They expected pockets of resistance but nothing organized. Then came the night. New Chicago, one of the Dominion's primary strongholds, went dark at precisely 2 o'clock. Power grids shut down. Communications ceased. Entire squads went missing. General Kralnor of the Dominion had ordered immediate countermeasures, deploying thousands of shock troopers to secure the area. They never came back. The last transmission was from a squad leader named Jorath. His voice was shaking. They're in the dark, he whispered. They see us. But we can't see them. Static. Then a sound, soft, mocking laughter. The feed cut out. By sunrise, the Dominion occupation force in New Chicago had been wiped out. Not in a battle. Not in a skirmish. Hunted. Their bodies were found piled in the center of the city, a message scrawled in their own blood on the pavement. We don't surrender. The fall of the Dominion fleet. In orbit, the Dominion's fleet had remained confident, until their ships started exploding. Their capital ships, equipped with state-of-the-art defenses, should have been untouchable. Yet one by one they fell. No enemy fleet was detected. No missiles. No external attacks. The destruction was internal. Sabotage. Human forces, thought to be nothing more than disorganized primitives, had boarded the Dominion ships without detection. They infiltrated engine rooms, set explosives in key systems, and executed the Dominion's crew with terrifying efficiency. By the time the Dominion realized what was happening, it was too late. The flagship, Sovereign Wrath, burned in the void, its once proud hull now a graveyard of drifting bodies. Admiral Vorka had barely escaped in an emergency pod. He had watched in horror as the rest of his fleet was erased. Humans had done this. Humans. The broadcast that shook the galaxy. As the Galactic Council reeled from the reports, another transmission interrupted their session. A live feed. A human appeared on the screen. He was young, unassuming. He sat in what looked like a simple command room, his expression calm. "Hey there, Galactic Council," he said casually as if he were speaking to old friends. "I assume you've heard the news by now?" The chamber remained silent. He grinned. "Yeah. Thought so." The High Chancellor stepped forward, mandibles clicking. "Who are you?" The human leaned forward. "Name's Captain Ryan Cole. And I think we need to have a little chat." "Why?" the Chancellor demanded. "Why did you do this? Why did you annihilate the Dominion?" Ryan's grin faded. "They invaded us." His voice was no longer casual. It was cold. "Sure. They came to our world, burned our cities, and thought they could conquer us." He leaned in closer, his eyes like steel. They didn't realize they were stepping into a war they could never win. The council chamber erupted into hushed whispers. Some still clung to their disbelief. Others, those who had always feared humanity, knew the truth. Earth had been left alone for a reason. And now the entire galaxy would remember why. Silence hung in the Galactic Council chamber like a funeral shroud. The screen still displayed Captain Ryan Cole's face, his expression unwavering, his message delivered with a quiet, terrifying confidence. The representatives of the great galactic empires, the Dominion, the Zelvarian hierarchy, the Zevran Union, sat in stunned disbelief. Earth was not only unconquered but had turned the invaders into prey. The High Chancellor's voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "Captain Cole, what are your demands?" Ryan tilted his head slightly as if considering the question. "Demands?" he echoed. "You think this is a negotiation?" A nervous hush fell over the chamber. Ryan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "See, that's the problem with you people. You think everything is about diplomacy. Treaties. Words. You sent a fleet to invade our home, kill our people, burn our cities, and now you want to talk." The High Chancellor's mandibles twitched, a nervous tick among his species. We did not authorize the Dominion's attack. It was an independent act." Ryan chuckled. It wasn't a friendly sound. "Bullshit." The single word cut through the room like a blade. "You all knew what was coming. Maybe you didn't sign off on it, but you sure as hell didn't stop it. You thought we were weak. That Earth was a backwater planet easy to pacify. And now you're scrambling because we did what humans always do." He leaned forward and for the first time, there was no humor in his eyes. Only steel. "We survived." The truth about humanity. In the darkest corners of the Galactic Council, where information flowed like whispered secrets, there had always been rumors about humans. They were latecomers to the galactic stage, emerging from a planet scarred by war and hardship. When they first reached the stars, the Council had observed them cautiously, unsure of what to make of their reckless curiosity and boundless ambition. At first, humanity had played along, acting like eager newcomers. They adopted intergalactic laws, attended diplomatic summits, built peaceful trade routes. But some species, those who had studied Earth's real history, knew the truth. Humans were the apex predators of their world. Every other intelligent species had evolved in harmony with their environment, coexisting with nature. Humans had conquered theirs. When nature challenged them, they adapted. When enemies came, they outlasted them. And when war was necessary, they fought like no other species in existence. The Dominion had just learned that lesson the hard way. And now, the rest of the galaxy was realizing what it truly meant. The Council's desperate proposal. "Captain Cole," the High Chancellor spoke again, his voice struggling to maintain composure. "I will not deny what has happened. The Dominion has suffered a terrible defeat. But I ask you as one leader to another, what is it you seek now?" Ryan exhaled slowly. "You don't get it, do you?" His voice was quieter now but somehow more dangerous. "This isn't about what we want." He gestured behind him and the screen flickered. New footage appeared. The ruins of Earth's cities, still smoldering from the Dominion's initial attack. The bodies of civilians, innocents, who had died in the opening bombardment. Survivors, bloodied but standing, weapons in hand, ready to keep fighting. "This is about what happens next," Ryan continued. "The Dominion came to exterminate us. They failed. Now it's our turn." The chamber erupted. "You can't mean to retaliate," a Zelvarian ambassador cried out. "The war is over." Ryan's eyes darkened. "No. It's just begun." The Dominion's own representative, his carapace still bearing cracks from his injuries, tried to rise from his seat. "We surrender," he gasped. "The Dominion formally surrenders to Earth. Please, no more." Ryan smiled. But there was no mercy in it. "Surrender?" He shook his head. "That's not how this works." The High Chancellor's voice turned desperate. "We must find a peaceful resolution. The galaxy cannot afford an Earth-Dominion war." Ryan stared at him for a long moment. Then at last he spoke. "There's only one way this ends." His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber like a death knell. "The Dominion ceases to exist." A message to the galaxy. The Council was still reeling when the next broadcast went out. Every network, every station, every intergalactic channel suddenly displayed the same image. Ryan Cole standing in front of the battered but defiant flag of Earth. "This is a message to every species watching," he said, his voice cold. "To the leaders of the Dominion, you brought this on yourselves. You came to our world thinking you could conquer us." He leaned forward. "Now we're coming for you." The transmission cut out. For the first time in history, the galaxy knew true fear. And the war was far from over. The broadcast of Captain Ryan Cole's chilling message echoed across the galaxy, reaching every world, every fleet, every leader who had once considered humanity nothing more than an insignificant newcomer to the stars. But now the truth was undeniable. The Dominion had shattered itself against Earth, and humanity had not only survived, they were preparing to end the war on their terms. And their terms were simple: the Dominion ceases to exist. The reckoning begins. At the very heart of the Dominion, on the war-ravaged homeworld of Zivarn Prime, Supreme Warlord Jask Tron stood in the shadows of his crumbling throne room. Around him, his advisors chittered in panic, their armored forms twitching with barely restrained terror. "They will be here soon," one of them whispered. "Our fleets are broken, our defenses shattered. What are we to do?" Jask said nothing, because he already knew. The Void Fawn was gone. The Stormcallers, their elite dreadnoughts, had been reduced to drifting wrecks. The Dominion's once proud war machine, an armada that had conquered 100 worlds, had been humbled by a single planet. No, not humbled, destroyed. And now they were coming. Jask's claws clenched at the thought. It had been arrogance, no stupidity, to think Earth could be taken. Humans were not like the other prey species the Dominion had crushed beneath its war banners. They were something else. Something that did not break. Something that only became more dangerous when pushed to the edge. And now there was no stopping them. No surrender. No peace. Only fire. The arrival of retribution. It began with a flicker in the skies over Zivarn Prime. Then another. Then 100. The Artemis fleet had arrived. Humanity did not waste time with empty threats. The moment Captain Cole's declaration had been sent, Earth's war machine had moved with terrifying speed. Their ships, brutal, unyielding hunks of metal designed for one purpose, descended upon the Dominion's homeworld like a god's final judgment. And then the bombardment began. Planetary shields cracked in minutes. The Dominion's last remaining ships scrambled to intercept, but the moment they entered range, Earth's weapons tore them apart. No mercy. No hesitation. This was not a war anymore. This was extermination. And the Dominion knew it. The last stand of Zivarn Prime. Jask Tron watched as the sky burned. He had always believed in the Dominion's supremacy. Had thought himself a master of war, a being whose name would be remembered for eternity. Now he would be remembered for something else. For leading his people to annihilation. His final transmission was brief. "To the Galactic Council," he rasped, his voice barely audible over the destruction unfolding around him. "You tried to warn us. You told us not to go to Earth. We didn't listen." He turned, looking through the shattered walls of his palace, watching as the last Dominion defenses collapsed in waves of fire and death. And then he spoke his final words. "Tell them what happened here." Then the sky fell. The end of an empire. When the fires finally stopped, there was nothing left. Zivarn Prime was a ruin. The Dominion was no more. And humanity stood victorious. The Galactic Council convened in desperate urgency, scrambling to make sense of what had just happened. One of the oldest and most feared empires in the known universe had ceased to exist, not over decades, not over years, but in days. And Earth had done it alone. The High Chancellor's voice shook as he addressed the Council. "We have always feared the unknown," he said. "We feared what lay beyond the dark." He looked at the images of Zivarn Prime's devastation. "And now we know what should have been feared." The chamber was silent. Because they all knew the truth. There would be no retaliation. No vengeance. No second war. Because no one would ever dare challenge Earth again. A message to the galaxy. The final broadcast of the war was not from Captain Cole. It was from a simple transmission, sent to every world, every species, every leader who had ever doubted humanity. A single sentence. Never again. The meaning was clear. Earth was no longer just another world in the galactic order. They were the ones who ended wars. And if anyone ever dared challenge them again, well, the Dominion had been the first lesson. And the last. Subscribe for more. Earth changed the galaxy forever. And you know you want to see what happens next. Hit subscribe. Because in the universe of war, you never bet against humanity,